In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a 12-volt battery in a Lincoln MKZ Hybrid. On your typical Lincoln MKZ, the battery would be under the hood, but because this is a hybrid, all the hybrid accessories are over here where the battery typically would be, so it's actually in the trunk. And just so you know, this car doesn't even actually have an alternator. It uses the DC to DC converter here on the hybrid system to take the DC power from the big high voltage battery and convert it down to 12 volt to charge the battery. So what we gotta do is we gotta come in the trunk here and we undo these two little latches, and inside here is your 12 volt battery. Now this car has made it 7 years on the original 12 volt battery, which is pretty amazing considering most cars you're gonna get about an average 5-year lifespan. The reason this battery is going to last a little bit longer is because A, it's inside the car, it's hidden away from the elements, so it's going to make it last a little bit longer. But also, instead of being charged by a traditional alternator, it's charged by the DC to DC converter, which is taking the battery from the high voltage battery back here and stepping it down to 12 volts to charge the battery. Now, in order to get this battery out, we got to remove a few things. So our first step here is this black plastic piece needs to come out. Down in the corners here, there's 2 round pins. Nuts need to get pulled out. They're plastic nuts. They hold in the net if you have that. We'll take those out. We'll set those aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to pull out the spare tire cover. And actually this car doesn't even have a spare tire. These have the fill station from Ford. Now that we have that, we can actually get this to move a little bit. We're going to move this over those pins on either side. So let's pull it back. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to pull up. You'll hear the clips release. So we're releasing these clips along here, which go down through here. We'll set this aside. Next step is we got to remove this cover here. Once again, there's another one of those pins right here. Remove that. This pulls back and now it's around the trunk here. We just want to carefully work that around. It'll pull, it's 2 separate pieces. Now, in order to get this all the way out, up here in the corner, there's a little push pin. Using a tool for that, we can go ahead and pop that pin out. We'll get this pulled back out of the way enough that we can access and work on this. If this trunk panel pops off, just goes ahead and snaps right back into place. Now we get the cover out of the way, we have our battery here. We have this nut here on the top of the strap, and then down here we have another bolt that's going to hold the battery in. And we have our 2 battery terminals here. So we have the large one over here that has a positive on it, that's your positive. The smaller one over here is your negative. Now, one thing with this battery has a connector on here. This connector on the negative side here is actually going through and measuring current. What that does is reports to the computer how well the battery is doing and regulates the charge on it. With this hybrid car, you need to have a scan tool to reset what's called the BMS, the battery management system, in the car. So if you're doing this at home, you can go ahead, you can replace it, but you need to take it to a shop and not just like an AutoZone that has a scanner, a little code scanner. It needs to be an actual, decently good scan tool to get this to get that reset. If you don't reset that, what it's going to do is going to cause overcharging of the battery, and it's going to kill the new battery a lot quicker than it should. So we're going to take a 10mm here and undo this little nut on the strap here. Go ahead and push those off to the side. Down in the corner here we have another 10mm. Go ahead and remove the bolt and the wedge. The wedge is what keeps that in there. Now we got to remove the battery cables. So here, this nut right here, and this nut right here are the 2 that we need to remove. Do not remove any of these other ones. And we're actually not going to remove them, we're just going to loosen them up. So whenever we're taking a battery out, we always want to take the negative off first, so the smaller one here. Once again, it's a 10mm. We're going to go ahead, and we're just going to gently wiggle and pull up as we go to get this disconnected. We might have to go ahead and unclip the wire harness here. And go ahead and set the negative cable here off to the side. Next, with the positive, we're going to go ahead and remove or loosen up the nut there. Go ahead and we'll pull the positive cable up. Now, last thing we gotta do is on here, there's a vent tube. This vent tube prevents any gases outside the cabin because batteries do create hydrogen gas, so that gets vented out through this tube out to the outside of the car. Then we go ahead and pull the battery out. So now we got the old battery out. Here's our new battery. This battery is from Napa. It is part number 7567R. Make sure if you go to Napa, you get this part number. The one they have in their computer is not correct. They have to actually look it up in the actual catalog. If they do give you one from the computer, it's going to be a little bit longer and bigger and won't fit. Now, compare them. They're the same size. We have these covers over the positive, negative. One thing we have to do on the old battery, there's a little vent tube we talked about. We need to take and pull the old one out, or pull out the old battery, just a plastic elbow, and put that into the new one. It doesn't come with it, so you have to transfer it over, and be careful not to break this. And drop the battery in. It should go into place nice and easily. We can then go ahead and put our holder into place here. Tighten it down. We go ahead and hook the hose. Now we start putting our cables back on, so we're going to go ahead and hook up the positive cable first. And go ahead and take the negative one off. And we'll go ahead and we'll slide our negative cable on. Hook up our battery monitor connector. We'll go ahead and tighten these down. You don't have to be super tight. Just get them on there so that it doesn't move. Tighten up our positive. Okay, double check everything's nice and tight. And go ahead and put our strap up here. Go ahead and tighten that down. Might notice it's a little bit different nut. Can't find the other one. Just found another in the shop here. Make sure you don't lose that like I did. Next step here, once we're all done, we have this all situated, we can go ahead and take and start putting the covers back on. So we need to split this around the trunk. Get that into place. Make sure we push it underneath the molding here. In the corner up here, we have this push pin. Make sure that goes back into place. It's going to hold the inside of the trunk together. So that just pushes up into place there. We have one of our trunk nut holders there. Next step here is to replace the trim piece in the trunk here. Now make sure we line it up with the trunk latch, and then all we're going to do is give it a push on either side there. That'll lock it in. Come down here, put in our two nuts, and then the last step, we'll go ahead and put our spare tire cover in. Go ahead, we'll put the battery cover back on. Now we'll go hook up our scan tool and reset the BMS. Now we're going to use our OTC Evolve tool to go ahead and reset the BMS, battery management system. So we're going to hook up to the OBD2 port, which is, we're going to hook this up to the OBD2 port, which is underneath the driver's side of the dash. We'll hook that up. We'll go ahead and power the vehicle on. Once we power the vehicle on, we're going to go ahead and have it connect. I'm going to select our vehicle. It'll automatically ID it. Remember, this step is important to do. If you don't get this step done, you can actually end up overcharging the battery because the battery management system doesn't know how much to charge. So we're going to go to maintenance test. Battery charging. So it's going to go through and scan the car, finding that connection to that the modules for the charging system. Once it does that, we're going to go ahead and reset the BMS. So we have right here, battery management system reset, body control TBMS. So this, the BMS is going to go through there. We're going to go ahead, we're going to click that. Say turn the ignition key on, hit continue. This test resets the battery monitoring system. Continue. Perform the test in the following events. Batteries replaced, BCM body control module is replaced or reprogrammed, BMS reset is required as instructed by the shop manual. So the manual says you have to do this, the scan tool's telling you have to do it, you have to get this done. If you don't have a scan tool like this, you need to go to a shop and have them reset this. Right there, test completely. Go ahead, turn the ignition key off. And that's all you have to do. Hopefully this video helped you out. If it did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If it didn't help you, go ahead and smash a thumbs down twice, show me that you hated it, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you.